In this final chapter, we are going to just tidy up the rig, add in a couple of extra features which will allow us to reset a default pose and to show and hide our controllers. And then the rig should be ready to use. Before I do that, however, I'm going to come into the hierarchy here. I'm just going to delete my neck spline. I'm going to delete that root with those joints. I'm going to delete my neck cube with the skin and take this neck wire object and just put that back here and delete that null with the mesh deformer. Folding this down, we can switch all of these on and re-enable our espresso. So I'm just basically going back to the setup we had originally rather than using the joint chain. But by all means, use whichever method you prefer. First thing I want to do is make it so that we can easily grab the controllers in the viewport. You don't want to be coming back up here and coming back into the viewport and back up here every time you want to change the pose and animate your character. You just want to grab the hand and move it. So what we can do is we can make our null objects and we can set them all as shapes. So for example, if we take the first three, hips, torso and head, okay, let's select the basic tab first of all, icon settings. I'm going to choose icon color, display color. In previous versions, it was a little checkbox to say icon color. Now they've added in this part. And I'm going to set the display color to be automatic. And I'm going to choose a kind of greeny color, something like so. You can't see that yet, but you can see now the icons have changed. Let's select object tab and choose display and set this to be sphere. Okay, and let's set the sphere orientation to be XY. Now, if we deselect, you can see we now have our controllers. So we should be able to just click in here, and you can see that selected my torso controller, and now I can do some weird things. Okay, so you can change the size of them if you prefer. So maybe we want the torso one to be 15, you know, a bit bigger. It depends. Let's just leave it like that for now. Let's come down to our left and right hand controllers. For the object here, I'm going to choose display and I'm going to choose pyramid. Okay, and I'm going to set this to be XY. In fact, no, I'm not. What I want to do is set that to be XZ. There we go, XZ. So they're kind of pointing towards the hand, and that will just tell us which way the hand is orienting. I'm going to set these to be maybe a bit smaller, 5, maybe 6 or 7. And with the left hand, or let's select them both. In fact, let's select all of these, choose basic, and just set the icon color to be display color, so we don't have to keep doing that. Now let's come to my left hand and the right one, choose display color automatic. Let's select left, make this a kind of pinky color. And the right one, make that a blue color. Okay. Let's do the same with the foot controllers. So I'm going to select the foot controller left, foot controller right. Object, I'm going to choose them to be a rectangle and set the orientation to be X, Y. In fact, not rectangle. Let's choose cube and let's make them 5. Okay. For the left one, once again, I'm going to choose display color automatic and set that one to be like this pink and this one to be blue. Okay. Now, if we're really particular, we could make these exactly the same color, but I don't think that matters too much right now. The next thing is the heel lift and the toes. So for the heel lift and the toes, once again, let's set display color to be automatic. Object, I'm going to choose circle. Okay, X, Y. In fact, ZY. There we go, like so. And let's make those a bit smaller. 5. Okay. And if we note that they're in the same place, so we're going to select the heel lift and that heel lift and make those to be 10. Okay, so now you can see we have this one here for our gammy heel lift, which I can't seem to grab the right part. There we go. Okay. And once again, we can set these. In fact, if we select all of these and we just choose basic, automatic, and then we can choose the same pink for all of them. So we've got a bit of consistency, and these automatic, and we choose the same blue here. Okay, there we go. These little things, color coding, just helps when you're busy animating and you can just quickly see which part is which. The only other controllers that we need to be concerned with are the pole vectors, which are up here in space. And we can just come into our hierarchy here. Let's fold down let's just collapse that for a moment and fold everything down. Okay, so we have our left arm pole, right arm pole, left thigh and right thigh. I'm going to set the icon settings here to be display color and the display color to be automatic. Let's come to object and set that to be cube, and we just want those to be small, 5, and I'm going to set them to be on X, Y, just so we can see the orientation. In fact, let's say 2.5 there, and you need to be tiny little things. Now if we choose left arm pole and left thigh pole under basic, let's make these that pinky color again. And let's choose the right arm pole and the right thigh pole, and let's make those blue. So now you can see the controllers for those. So if we want to adjust the angle of the arms and legs, or we just want to stop them flipping, we can easily grab those in the viewport. Now you notice we've got all these lines as well. They're lines from the IK and the pole vectors. So what we can actually do is hide all of those. So let's select our IK tags in the object manager, and we're just going to come up and select all of these. Okay, I think that's everything. And then we have display. We can choose handle line, uncheck, and pole vector, we can choose none. So now it's a little bit cleaner. We don't see those extra lines. So you're not going to want to see these controllers all the time. You're only going to be able to switch them on and off as and when you need to use them. So let's build a small piece of Espresso that allows us to do that. We come up to our Roger. Let's first of all choose user data, manage user data. Up pops our user data manager. In here, we're going to select the robot controls, choose add data. Let's put it at the very bottom, but I want to drag that to the top. Let's call this hide controllers. And I'm going to set the data type to be Boolean. And now I'm going to just control drag to copy that. And let's call this second one reset pose. Once again, a Boolean. Click OK. And you can see now we have these checkboxes which we can use to hide our controllers and reset our pose. Now a button for reset pose would be better, but you need to use Python, I believe, to be able to add buttons in. So we're going to use a checkbox. You just check it and uncheck it and it will do the same thing. So let's double click to open up our Espresso. Okay. So we've got quite a lot going on in here now. Let's just pull this down. I'm going to grab the Roger null, drop it in once again, and then choose robot controls, hide controllers, and then robot controls, reset pose. Now for hiding the controllers, I'm literally going to just drag Roger in once again. And we can link this to all of these objects by iterating through them with an object list, just as we have previously. So let's choose basic properties visible in editor. And let's choose object. So we've got those two inputs. So we're going to input the list of objects. To do that, we choose new node, Espresso, iterator, object list. Object list we link into object. Hide controllers we can link into visible in editor. So in this object list we need to add in all of our controllers. So the easiest way to do that is to come up and just click on the padlock to lock this, and then we can come here and we can select all of those, drop them in. If we scroll down, we can select our pole vectors like so, and we can drop those in as well. So now it's going to iterate through all of those objects and input them into here, and as we uncheck and check this, we should see a change in our viewport. So let's just come up, select Roger, choose hide controllers, and there we go. And you can see that now with that checked, all our controllers are hidden. To reset the pose, we need to make sure we're happy with the pose of our character, which I am, and that will be my default pose. If we select the various controllers in the Object Manager and look at the coordinates for each one, you can see that they're all at different values, some of them with position, some with rotation values. Now what we can do is we can use the freeze transformation command down here to freeze all of these values, and it basically takes all of these values and places them in here, and then it resets the coordinates to 0. So we can simply select all of our controllers by shift clicking here, then coming down, holding down Control to select the pole vectors. Once we've selected them all, we can just choose Freeze All and fold that up. So now you can see all of our objects have 0 coordinates. So if we open up the Espresso once again, what we can do now is we can drag our Roger null in once again. I'm just using this as a stand-in because of course we're going to feed this object list into here. We're going to feed that into our object input. So now that's going to iterate through all of those objects once again, just like it did before. And then what we want to do is we want to come up and choose New Node, Espresso, General, and we're going to add in a constant. That constant also already has a default value of 0. So we want to come in here and choose Coordinates, Position, and Coordinates, Rotation. Okay, and we want to set all of those to 0, but we only want that to happen when we click on this reset pose. So what we can do is we can add in an on switch. That on switch determines whether this node is actually on or not. So if we link this reset pose into here, select Roger, you can see that that reset pose is currently unchecked, which means that that node is not on. As soon as we check that, it's going to send a positive or a 1 value and switch that on. So now we've done that, we can take our constant real, which has a value of 0, and we link it into position, rotation. So now whenever we check that box, it's going to switch that on and reset those values to 0. So it's nice and quick and nice and simple. Okay, we can select all of these. Let's just give these a color so that we can differentiate between them in our Espresso setup. We can take our remark, copy paste, and we can call this something like reset pose and hide controllers. So let's close down that Espresso and let's just grab, say, the hand, move it around, grab one of the feet, etc. Let's rotate this. He's looking pretty cool. Now let's select Roger, click reset pose, and then uncheck it. And you can see that that resets all of those values to default. Now you just have to be a little bit careful of this because if you've spent ages doing a pose, it will destroy it. But it's definitely handy. Some animators like to set keys for their default pose, and they normally put them at a minus frame on the timeline, or you can do it this way. So that brings us to the end of the training. We've built, it's not exactly a very complicated rig, but it does have a fair amount of features. The only other thing that you may want to do is to add these elements to like the HUD, and that's easy to do. You can simply select all of these and actually just drag them in, which isn't the best way of doing it. Let's choose remove, or you can select them all, right click and choose add to head up display. Now with control you can move this around and you can hide that. So now we can actually use these checkboxes in here. So if we wanted to work kind of full screen with our controllers and animating like this, we can do it all with this HUD. So that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and it's taught you the basics of setting up a character rig. I look forward to seeing some of your animations. Thanks very much.